Hello and welcome back yet again. This time I'm dealing with where to begin. One difficulty when one decides to draw close to God is the fear that if I show interest, I'm going to have all sorts of people telling me I should be doing all sorts of things that I don't feel like doing, I don't feel up to doing at this stage. And you'd be absolutely right to feel that way. And this is how Jesus saw it as well. There's a very interesting fact that, especially in the Gospel of St. Mark, we read that very often when Jesus had worked a miracle or at the Transfiguration, he would say to those who had witnessed it, "Don't tell anyone about this until the Son of Man has risen." And he did so because he knew that people would not necessarily be ready for what this was all about, for recognizing him as the Son of God and so on. And so it is with all of us as we approach God. We need to grow into this relationship. It's not something that we can just jump into and from the next moment be fully involved in and truly then carry through for the rest of our lives. You see, I remember when I was a child and was being taught catechism, which in our day was done in the form of questions and answers. And so we had all these questions and all the answers we had to learn off by heart. And question one was always, "Who made you?" To which the correct reply was, "God made me." And question two was, "Why did God make you?" And the correct reply was, "God made me to know him, to love him, and to serve him in this life, and to be happy with him forever in the next." And this order is extremely important: to know God, to love him, and to serve him. We need to grow into an understanding of God to truly serve him as we should. I remember one example of how important this is. When I was a child, I suppose about 6 years of age, and my parents, my brother and sister and I were going to a railway station we hadn't been to before, and my dad was getting directions from a friend of his, and I was standing listening, and it was a lot of turn left, turn right, and so on. But at a certain point, his friend said to him, "You'll then come to a ramp over the railway line." At which point I stopped following the directions and thought, that doesn't sound like a good idea to me. The only ramp I knew was the ramp we made in our yard and then used to jump over with bicycles. And so looking at this car, we at the time had what was called the Fleetline Chev from the early 1950s. And as you may know, cars built at that time weighed an awful lot more than cars do today, and they were certainly not little. And Fleetline today would have been a very inaccurate description of the car. And I thought, I don't know about us ramping over a railway line, presumably high enough to clear any trains that might be on the tracks at the time, with all of us in the car. But looking at my dad, he was quite okay with these instructions and carried on listening. And so I went along for the ride, and I can still remember how my parents laughed at me when we got to the other side, and I said to them, "What happened to that ramp we were going to go over?" And they realized what I'd been thinking. You see, I was prepared to set aside my view of the whole thing and to go with my dad's view because I trusted him. And I trusted him because I knew him from my previous experience of living with him. And the same is true of our relationship with God. If we truly want to follow him, we need to know him well enough to come to trust him to the point where we can set aside our ideas sometimes and say, well, if God thinks this is a good idea, I'm prepared to go along with it and to see what happens. This is our progression. We also know very clearly from our experience of life that if some task is imposed on me, it can weigh heavily on me if it's something I really don't want to do. Whereas if I have to do something and I do it out of love, that doesn't weigh on me at all. I can do great things for love without needing any great reward. It just comes from that feeling of loving someone. And this is why I was saying in the beginning that to jump straight into Christian service could be a mistake. Because Christian service is not meant to be a test of my endurance. It's not meant to be a test of how much I can put up with. It's meant to be something that comes spontaneously as a result of my relationship with God, as a result of my being close to God and starting to understand His way of looking at the world, of looking at those around me, and so on. And so the point is that as we come to know God and we come to see Him in action in our lives, we will grow to love Him. It's the natural result of dealing with someone who has your very best interests at heart. You become attached to them. And as that affection grows, as that love of God grows, serving Him, providing Christian service becomes a thing that you do, not because you feel you ought to, but just because it is the thing to do, and you know that, and you can do it willingly and lovingly, and that's how Christian service should really be done. From this point, just to say, the talks that I intend having, following on from this, next time I hope to speak to you about the Bible, because often people will think of starting to read the Bible and try to read it from cover to cover. If that is a thought you've had, I'd ask you to hold off until I've spoken, till you hear my next talk and you hear what I think you should do about that. Following that, I would like to talk about the various ideas and things that Christians will tell you that can be quite conflicting at times, and why that is, and why it's not meant with any malintent, and why it's just part of development. Following that, I'll be doing a talk on prayer, which I think is an essential subject to cover at that time. And so I really hope that this series of talks can help you in your growth and in your approach to God. And may God bless you.